So there have recently been, and not even recently, this has been ongoing for a number of different issues. Just some crazy entertaining and wild school board meetings where angry parents are getting up and just speaking their piece. Uh, Recently, maybe a few weeks ago, there was a mother, and we'll link this, of course, who was blasting a school board about a drag show, and she did this while wearing the same outfit that the drag queen would be wearing in front of her kids to drive home the point, right? And there've been plenty of parents who have done this, and it's to great effect. A lot of them, what they do is they'll read out loud the material that their kids have access to because it's very salacious, it's vulgar, it's sexual, and it's not something that it just makes people cringe and feel like, oh, you're reading this out loud. That doesn't feel appropriate. Well, if it's not appropriate in a school board meeting, they make a very compelling argument that it's probably not appropriate for my child to be reading or have access to, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very good demonstration. It's a very good way to drive home your point. Um, and very recently in Dearborn, Michigan, there have been parents who are up in arms over a book which you've read. I read a little bit of it. The book is called This Book is Gay, and
Yeah.
it's about how fun it is to be a gay person and how gay sex works and how cool it is. And I would almost say, would you agree that it's almost proselytizing or pitching the gay experience to people?
No,
It
I
isn't.
wouldn't.
You
No, I
wouldn't
wouldn't
go
go
that
that
far?
far.
No,
No.
okay.
No.
So, but it does have explicit language in it. You agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. It is very sexual.
Explicit, but not pornographic.
No, no, I wouldn't call it pornographic either.
Right. I
So,
actually had to look up the definition of pornographic, and the thing is, the book. It's clear that that book was not written to to sexually excite someone. I
no,
think
it's
that's
not
yeah,
pornography.
yeah.
It's just explicit sexual material. So, these parents, we'll link it to you. It's pretty funny. Parents and some people who supported these books and think it's defending the LGBT. These parents were very upset, and I'm not a parent, and you're not a parent. Just putting out there, but I can see why these parents would be upset because I wouldn't want to send my kid to school and think that this is the type of stuff that they're either learning or have access to. I just want you to teach them things that are going to make them productive citizens. But of course, on the left, they would argue that discovering whether or not
Okay,
you're
wait, wait,
gay
wait,
is
wait, wait,
part of
wait.
that
But
experience.
that's I feel like that's already perhaps like an unfair kind of way to frame it, right? Like these are books at a library that they're
Hmm.
trying to get out of the library. I don't know, like are they being featured in the library somehow? Or are they literally just, you go they're in the shelf somewhere, you go to that section and you pull it off the shelf, right? Like
I don't think anything of the library is featured. Who even goes in a library? I bet you anything, very few kids have read them,
well, I
realistically.
mean, well, library typically they'll have a featured book section, right? Or they'll have shelves of featured books. Just like you go to
Yeah,
Barnes and Noble
yeah.
or whatever.
Right, right. I
Yeah.
don't know if they
Just
are featured. Who knows?
yeah. So assuming that they're not treated, they haven't been treated specially compared to other books, just
Hmm.
the mere presence, that we're just talking about the mere presence of the book in the library. Like if I was a parent, I wouldn't like it, but that's as far as I would go. Like I wouldn't
Huh,
necessarily,
huh.
be up in arms about this or anything. It's like somebody, I read one of these comments where somebody was drawing comparisons between, what was it, Diary of Anne Frank, and Romeo and Juliet being, also having explicit, sex in there or whatever. And I think that's obviously going too far. It's like this book is gay is completely not in the same you know ballpark as
It's not even
those other.
fiction though. Although
Right,
Anne Frank's not fiction.
right, right. Yeah, it's not the same ballpark as those, but this also isn't Playboy or Hustler or something like that in the
No, it's not
library,
pornography. It's
right?
still
So
educational, you could argue.
yeah. So like as a parent, if I was a parent, I don't think I would yeah, like I said, I wouldn't like it, but I wouldn't really care that much. And
Well, I think that, yeah, the people who think that it's really going to impact their kids, They are overblowing it. I mean, there's people who like one of the defenses about it for it are people saying, "Are you really afraid of what some words on a page will do to your kids? Will it turn them
Yeah,
gay?" Right?
yeah, yeah. We've
They
heard
say
this
that.
before.
Right. It's like these words won't turn your kids gay. And okay, I agree. They're not going to turn my kids gay. But aren't these the same people who think words are violence?
Yeah, they
Right?
absolutely
These
are.
people
Yeah,
definitely assign really a lot of weight to words.
the
And aren't they the
words
same people
exactly.
who just want to cancel people for words? Yeah, so don't say that
It's
you think words are just minor little things either, right? It's
yeah,
the
or
same
they
people.
shouldn't be saying it though. Yeah,
Yeah, they in particular, they'd be hypocrites. So I agree that barely anybody checks these books out. It's not gonna. I agree, it's not gonna turn your kid gay. I agree that
yeah.
most kids are not even gonna read it. But here's why I think it's still
And somebody, I think it's probably somebody on the left at one of these meetings pointed out that they had checked like the record of, one of these books. It was probably this book is gay, and had determined that it had never been checked out.
right.
Right. So
Probably wouldn't be.
the whole thing. It's so massively overblown. This feels like
The
what you're
actual
saying.
the actual book is overblown, yes.
Yeah. Well, it feels to me a little bit like what you were saying earlier about you know, the the George Floyd thing. Like why are you gonna fight this battle? I mean, yeah, it's great that this is red pilling tons of people. Like that's great. But
Well, yeah,
yeah.
that's where it has value though, because there are a lot of normie parents who are now getting red pilled.
Yeah.
So it has value in that. And what you're seeing is the reason why it's still important, even though the book is not really impacting anybody. Nobody reads the book. Nobody checks it out. Why would they check out this book?
Yeah, it's not a good book either.
The book is gay. I'm not using that as a pejorative. Oh, I kind of am, but
Yeah,
it's a
you
gay
are.
book, right? So yes, the book itself is not really impacting anybody. But what the parent, A, it's good the parents are getting red pilled. B, they are sniffing out an underlying agenda and they're fighting back against that, which is good, in my opinion, and is necessary. Because what they are sent, even though they can't articulate that this is what's going on necessarily, they feel this in their bones. What they're sensing is that there's an underlying agenda to sexualize their children and push them in a certain direction to normalize certain types of relationships. Like this, there's 32 genders, there's this, and blah, 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 and there's that. And drag queen shows are totally normal and healthy. And they are sensing that that's the agenda that's happening. And why do I confidently say that that's the agenda? The left, the people defending these books and these LGBT, the presence in schools, they always say it's about making people feel comfortable, making sure children have resources that are available in case they're maybe questioning their sexuality and they need this sort of stuff. Well, here's how I know that's BS. Uh, there's this thing called the internet where any child who's curious about his sexuality can totally go. And this is also speaks to how the issue is overblown because any child can just look up porn, can look up sexual explicit material. They can look up the PDF of this book, which I found in 2 seconds. Okay? They have access to all of these things. It doesn't need to be carried in the library. And yet, and yet, the people on the left really think it's important to make sure that your kids do see it in the library, that they do see drag shows at school. Even though they can go ahead and they can look up drag shows on YouTube, they can find them just fine. So it's not exposure or choice to be exposed that they're trying to defend. Every child of any age with access to the internet can look up drag shows and see plenty of drag shows. They can watch 24 hours of it if they so choose. Okay? So banning drag shows from a school or banning a particular kind of book from a library doesn't prevent any child who's questioning his sexuality to look up this material. It's out there, but they want to make everybody view it. They want to normalize it for everyone. So in that way, yes, they're trying to influence your children. They're not trying to defend or protect the right of a child who's already questioning, already has ideas, already wants to see this material. If you want to see this material, it's online. Just go look it up. You know how to use Google better than your parents do. Go ahead and just find it. They don't want that. They want to make the children who are not even interested in it, they want them to see it because they want to change their minds about, they want to normalize it in their minds. And that's where I draw the line. That's where I don't think they have the right. They're trying to influence your kids and normalize this this thing which you may find morally objectionable. You may find deviant. And by the way, a lot of the parents in Dearborn do. I know this because they half of the people in that room are Muslim. And sorry, but most Muslim people find this sort of thing deviant. They find it morally objectionable. And you're trying to force the normalizing of this sort of thing on their kids. I think that's wrong. And they have the sense that that's wrong. So there I know that they say that this book is the thing that actually matters. We both agree, knowing the facts, that the book doesn't really matter who even reads it. And even if you banned it, your kids could easily look up the same material online. You're not stopping anybody from accessing this material.
Yep.
However, they sense in their bones the real agenda, and the real agenda is that the left wants to make it normalized in your kids' minds. So they need to sort of force the exposure on them. They're trying to force exposure because that's how you normalize things. And that's what they're fighting against. So this book doesn't force exposure, but this book and the battle lines around it and the battle line that has been drawn clearly indicates that that's the motive of people on the left. They want to normalize it in general, and you got to fight against it. This just happens to be the battle line at the battleground at the moment. So, just like I don't, my Civil War knowledge is really poor, but sometimes in the Civil War early on they fought over like a this little courthouse or this like minor seeming area. And will that thing turn the war? No, it won't, but it's just sort of the battleground at this moment. And, you know, the South has made it known that they want to secede, and you've made it known that you're not going to let them. It's not going to be determined by this one building or this one small area, but you you have to step up and fight because now this is the current
Okay.
battleground for it.
So the left is basically trying to change public opinion, right? By normalizing.
Yeah,
Um,
change public opinion, change society, change what
yeah.
is normal,
So, so if you go
change
back
your
and
kids' values.
sure. So if you were to just look at history, how actually do changes like this wind up even happening? Like at one point, blacks were they weren't even considered a full person or something, right?
I think a lot of it does happen through education. Why do we have so many woke people coming out of college?
That's true.
All right. I mean, and young people are more impressionable. Once you're like 55, you're pretty set in your ways and what you think. So uh, it's that's when you get them. That's when you
I
change
mean,
minds.
so that means so what they're doing has been effective.
Yes, it has been.
It's been
And
very effective.
And you can say, well, that's good. It's good that people, the left would say it's good that people are more tolerant of LGBT, of 32 genders, of drag shows. That's good. But, that's an opinion. And the Muslim parents in that room probably have a different opinion. They don't think it's good. They don't want their kids to adopt those values. But you're forcing those values on those kids. I don't think it's about, so it's a red herring when they say we just want children who are questioning their sexuality to have access to things. Otherwise, they'll want to kill themselves. Otherwise, they'll feel unwelcome. Like you live in a world that has an internet. Just go look up this stuff on the internet. How much more welcome do you need to feel? I mean, there's tons of stuff on the internet. Do you need a drag show to happen at school for you to feel welcome at school just because you're questioning your sexuality? I don't think so.
Actually,
I, as a straight person, don't need to like a strip show, like a woman to come strip for me to feel welcome at school. Do I? There you go. I don't understand.
it's actually really it's scary. It's scary how effective brainwashing is on kids. It's
Yeah.
when I like to think that I'm I'm too smart to fall for this kind of brainwashing. But the truth is, when I was a kid, I had no idea when I was being brainwashed. I mean,
In a lot of ways, it's
down
good because you want kids to absorb our culture and our society and values.
Do you remember having, did they, I don't know if they did this at your school. I think in elementary school, we had at least a period where people were, there was somebody was talking about brushing your teeth. Did they do this at your
A whole
school?
period?
Not for the whole, year or something, but at least for a
Oh,
day.
someone came in. Yeah, I remember. And they would
Did
even
you,
come in with like
a
like a
dye?
no, like
You
there's like a
remember that?
toothmobile or something, and they would have the truck or the van would be shaped like it would be
Okay. I
dentist
remember
themed or something.
we had, I think there was a dye actually that they had us take, which would, color your teeth. And then you would brush, and then you could see, what areas you were missing, right?
Oh, okay.
And not only that, but I remember them telling us about this is where I first learned about the that stamp of approval on toothpaste, where they
Mm-hmm.
say it's approved by the ADA.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I first learned about that. It was in school. Like they basically taught kids to look for that stamp, right? And now when I think back on it, that was pure brainwashing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think as a kid, I had total trust in the ADA as an authority on the health of your teeth. But as adults, you all know that these organizations, they all have political motivations as well. They're
Right.
not just out for
Right.
your health and whatever. So in retrospect, that was just a pure brainwashing thing. But it affected me for most of my adult life, where I went on, thinking that, oh, this ADA symbol on a on a toothpaste is important.
Kids are
Eh,
malleable.
Yeah.
Kids are impressionable. And therefore I yeah, I totally agree with parents who are uh hyper defensive about what kind of stuff is shaping their children.
Like on the other hand, I feel like for this particular thing that they're trying to, that's why I kind of asked you about history and whatever whether slaves they were not considered a full person, and
This
how
one
did that
thing,
change, right? Because
yeah.
in my opinion, this kind of stuff doesn't really, like, for me, I can only speak about myself. It doesn't change, or the thing that actually will most likely cause me to change is not them trying to shove this stuff in my face, but it's more about having LGBTQ or whatever friends, right? Like that's the thing that will actually cause me to be more compassionate about it.
Oh, as far as trying to be them trying to get you to be more accepting.
Accepting, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So what they're doing is it's actually making it worse for me right now. It's actually because it causes me to form certain negative stereotypes actually.
Right. And it causes
And
a backlash.
yeah,
In a lot of ways, it does backfire, and I think we're seeing that right now. But yeah, just concluding what I think the parents are right to push back against this, even though the thing that they're arguing about right now is not going to be not going to make or break anything.
right.
But whenever these leftists, you know their agenda, even if you can't articulate it, you sense it in your bones. You have to fight it at every turn, and that's what they're doing.
I'm really curious how bad this problem is, because we're encountering a huge amount of selection bias, right? Just by like
Right. Because we just see the
it's
crazy
getting
school boards. And
exactly.
most school boards
So
are
I want to
not
know,
crazy.
yeah, the schools that my nieces and nephews are going to, are they anywhere near this bad? Like I have a very biased view right now.
I would assume that most school boards are not crazy like this, and and generally schools are run in a way that suits that community. If you live in a super liberal community, then of course you're going to get that sort of stuff. But then the parents are fine with it. You live in a super conservative community, then you're going to get education that's in line with that. But the problem occurs when these things are misaligned. But the thing is, the left, and to give credit to them, this is where they've been super good. They've infiltrated education at all levels, in all places, regardless of what kind of community you live in. And they're brainwashing kids. They're pushing their agenda. And I'm happy that even if it takes a silly little book for parents to get red pilled, for parents to be aware that this is happening, that's fine. That's fine. At least now they're aware of it. And if they do more research and they look into it further, they will unwind the many other ways that the left is trying to shape their children. And hopefully they'll fight against those too.